Hi everyone, I'm Skepidillions, but most people call me Skep, and I'm a competitive Splatoon player, streamer, and commentator. I main the Blobbler, and I'm the captain of Hidden Radiance, which is a lower div competitive team that's existed since May 2021. I'm recording this video because this is something that deeply matters to me, and I feel my voice can make a difference and offer a perspective that we don't often get to hear in the community. Like a surprising portion of us, I got Splatoon during lockdown as a way to keep sane. It's something I never would have imagined falling in love with like I have. I played the 89 for a solid year on stick controls, and I did consider myself to have quite smooth sticks. Eventually, I discovered competitive scrims, such as Chaedr, Brian, and Prochara, and I realized how far this game really could be pushed. I joined D-Leaders, a server of a team that had long disbanded before my arrival, and that was my first interaction within the Splatoon community. After being there for over a month, I was introduced to Low Inc. and grew to love the game as a whole and as an esport. This is something I see myself doing for a long time, and something that I have a very deep passion for. Along the way, I learned about the superiority of motion controls, but this was something I refused to accept due to my physical limitations. If I worked hard enough, I saw myself being able to defeat those limitations. I work harder at this game than anyone I know, but I was competing in an arena where my opponents had a physical advantage. After working on my own skills for several more months, I decided to start my team Hidden Radiance in May with the help of the D-Leaders community, and began my personal competitive journey. While the original roster was never able to compete, along the way we did build a second roster and grew. I learned so much, so quickly, working with the same group of people, with improvement being our main focus. I started playing the Blobbler, which would ultimately become a huge passion of mine. Before I go any further, I should explain. I have joint problems. For various personal and financial reasons, my joints were never addressed. My ankles pop when I walk, I have to wear braces, and even typing exhausts me. I am generally frail. I was in marching band growing up, and I would always injure myself. I had been made to feel as if I was simply being dramatic. I never had health insurance, and my fragilities were never looked into and still have not been. Whenever the topic of motion controls versus sticks would come up, it always felt like I was being outed. Oh, you play sticks. Why, don't you know motion is better? Yes, of course I knew motion was better, but I was still determined to compete, even if this meant I would have to work harder to achieve the same outcomes. It took me 2 weeks to get horizontal blob flicks down, and another week to implement it during the stress of a match. But I did it. But every time motion would come up, I would always have to explain my disability and how it impacted my gameplay. It got to the point that I would preemptively explain my disability to avoid the motion is better rant, and this is something I was very bitter about. My absolutely wonderful co-captain, Nathan, whom I do not deserve, spent a lot of time thinking about how I could play motion controls. He himself, along with everyone else on my team, plays motion. He was sympathetic and deeply concerned with bringing it to my attention. He did not want to make me feel inadequate for something I may not be capable of. He recorded a video of him pivoting the controller between his fingers, using his fingers as a balance point for the controller. This way, I wouldn't need to use my wrist. It was stressful for me to even consider switching to motion. I had put in so much work with sticks. I would adjust my sticks sometimes 5 times a second. I was proud of the work I put into it, but I will take any and every opportunity to improve, so I decided to sleep on it. I went into team practice the following morning on sticks, as I always did. And that evening, Nathan and I sat down to work on it. I warmed up for a moment in the training room, got used to how I would need to hold my hands for this convoluted way of using motion, and we went into turf war. I was upset, devastated. I used the 89, which I had not played for a while. I had been one-tricking Blob for the last few months. And there was an aha moment. It felt like I was playing a different game. After adjusting, learning how to maneuver the camera, I realized why people play the Zap. As someone who spent a year playing the Zap exclusively, it was like playing a different weapon. The shot spread, ink coverage, no more tiny adjustments with my thumbs to get decent paint. My kills with Crapid doubled instantly, having played motion for less than an hour. My horizontal clicks with Blob that took me ages to get down came instantly with motion. It was upsetting. I would say, that wouldn't have happened on sticks. Every time I noticed it, it made me upset. I had spent all this time learning, struggling, to do the absolute bare minimum. I cried. Many times that night. My biggest fear was that I would wake up in the morning and my arm would be on fire. And I would know that I had no choice but to return the sticks, despite knowing how well I could perform with motion controls. I may have quit. The second day came, and my arm was slightly sore, but I kept going. I could have hurt myself, but I didn't want to give up. I grew distant from my own team for a while. Only Nathan knew what was going on. It felt like a secret I had to hide. Every match made me deeply emotional. I was angry when I did well. My game awareness suffered. I was feeding, putting myself in dumb situations. But I would be mad when I top fragged. Kills that I would have not gotten on sticks made me upset. Situations where I would have been forced to play more passively irritated me. It made playing Splatoon emotional for me. It felt like something I loved so much could be taken away. I kept going. Eventually, I realized my arm and wrist would get stronger. I would be able to continue motion controls. After about a week, I was physically used to it and started to not have to rely on my fingers as much. It no longer severely impacted my game awareness, and I was working on developing my reflexes again. I started aim training with motion controls more rigorously, and stopped avoiding solo queue like the plague. I became less nervous about how the transition would impact my performance, and more about physically performing. It felt like I was relearning the game. I ended up getting coaching and meeting Chara, who was the person who inspired me to get into comp back in January. At the time, I had been using motion controls for about a week and was starting to feel better about it. He was very quick to identify where I was at with my gameplay, and his focus on my strategy, and not my motion controls, made me encouraged to start working again. He knew I had been playing motion for about a week, and was not condescending. It meant a lot to me. It was inspiring, and I felt like I was getting my passion for this game back. I also started working with IPL, and I even commentated my first tournament. It was amazing, and I loved it. Things were happening. I even started streaming again, which I had been actively avoiding since I switched to motion controls. It felt like coming out of the closet, something I've had to do, and is not a comparison I take lightly. I started to tell my friends that I was learning to play motion, those who knew how long I had played sticks, and how much it was stressing me out. The secret was out. My teammates were proud of me, but concerned I would hurt myself. When I described how difficult it was for me to talk about, Nathan expressed that he felt guilty for forcing me to discuss something that made me feel so angry and depressed. I felt bad because I didn't want him to think he was responsible for my emotional pain. This wasn't my fault, and it wasn't his. He had helped me discover the next thing I needed to implement to improve. I will do anything to improve. It was a blessing that I was able to keep going with motion at all. Every now and then, I would be reminded of the people who may not be able to play motion. For so long, I considered myself physically unable to ever play motion. To me, it was pure luck I had been able to. I didn't want to be a symbol of why people should switch to motion. Oh, you see, even Skep can do it. I didn't want to invalidate other people's experiences or put even more pressure on them to do something that they might not be able to do. It made me feel guilty for something that I turned out to be able to do. What if I had been playing motion this whole time? Would I have been X rank by now? Maybe A rank wouldn't have been such a slog. I felt so guilty. Over time, I realized I didn't need to feel this way or responsible. None of this was my fault. It was Nintendo's. When they designed a product that was supposed to rely on motion controls, sticks were an afterthought. Inherently, I don't blame them. They've been trying to perfect motion controls since the Wii. They were the first company to do this in video gaming. It was innovation and something to be celebrated. But when they decided to focus so heavily on motion controls and ignore sticks and allow them to be vastly inferior to motion, they chose to exclude a large group of people from being able to participate in what they had created. They made it nearly impossible for people like me with joint conditions to play this game at a competitive level. Stick players are playing by different rules. They really do have to work so much harder to achieve the same results. The odds are stacked against them. This could have been fixed. Increased sensitivity would have been a start. I always played on max sensitivity, but it wasn't enough. Some argue that stick sensitivity throws their aim off, but to people who want to improve at this game and who have to play sticks anyway, they would work it out. The sensitivity is beyond way too slow to even be viable. I know I would have put in the work on my aim. I put the work into everything, every step of the way. I want to be clear, I don't think motion control should be nerfed. That would be ridiculous. I do think Nintendo needs to make developing stick controls a priority. Stick players will work it out. If that means the D-pad becomes a reorientation center, heck, that would be awesome. If it means pressing down the stick allows for a 180 turn, that would be awesome. Reality is, stick players need more tools. We are not adequately equipped for what we have to fight against. I'm not a game designer. I don't have the answers here, nor is that my responsibility. I'm here to share what I went through because of their choices. Over a month later, after switching the motion controls, and I can say now that I am a better player than I was when I started. My game awareness is back, and obviously I hit more shots than I would have. I'm proud of how far I've come and happy that I'm able to play motion controls at all. I know that this is what I needed to start competing at a higher level. This will make something that I love easier and make me better at it. I ask that you please not use my story as an example of why people should try everything that they can to switch to motion, because I don't want to be used like that. I don't want to pressure people into situations that make them uncomfortable. I'm telling this story because Nintendo can make different choices moving forward. And I want to help include as many people as we can in this community, and I want to grow as a player, a person, and as a leader. Splatoon is one of the most inclusive communities out there. This is part of the reason I love this community so much. I have met more open-minded people in the Splat community than I could ever hope to meet in real life. For the most part, people are positive, welcoming, and want to grow. There is no question about including the LGBTQA community or women or people who view the world differently. I've met so many of my fellow autistic people who are neurodivergent. This is a community that prides itself on how inclusive it is. And for this reason, I really want to ask the Splatoon community to remind itself that inclusivity means disability access too. I know everyone in this community wants to be kind and help each other. Not just joint disabilities like mine, but diabetes and colorblindness. I've met players who start to suffer when their blood sugar drops.
tournament screeners who occasionally mix up graphics because of their colorblindness. Disability access needs to be at the forefront of developing a video game such as Splatoon, not an afterthought. This is supposed to appeal to as many people as possible. In an ideal world, I would love to see deaf and blind people that are able to play this game. HD rumble, increased visual cues for the hard of hearing, and extremely HD surround sound are all ways to make this happen for people who want to play this game. Obviously, not everyone with a disability that severely limits their ability to play video games is going to want to play this game, but I never again want to see someone who feels like they can't play this game because of something that is out of their control. So here's what we can do. We can put pressure on Nintendo and remind them that as they focus on motion controls and are thus eliminating stick controls, they are excluding people who will never be able to play motion for legitimate reasons. I could have just as easily woken up after that first day of motion controls and been in excruciating pain. I don't know if that would have ended my comp aspirations, my desire to commentate, or my passion for the game. I am so glad I didn't have to find out. But for other people, this may not be their reality. Nintendo can do better here. Stick controls cannot be an afterthought, because then the people who can't play motion for legitimate reasons are also an afterthought. We can change how we discuss the sticks versus motion debate. I know there isn't much of a debate, especially in the comp community. We all agree that motion is inherently better, but it's designed that way, and this is part of the problem. Sticks need to be improved, and we need to shift our focus to that. The phrase motion is better used to get under my skin so much because it was like, stop just telling me motion is better and start telling me how I can perform well on sticks. Stop using motion is better as clickbait or surprise sticks clips as clickbait or challenges that inherently make those who have to play sticks feel like shit. I'm not saying you can't have these challenges, but just please always be mindful that there may be someone out there listening who looks up to you, who loves this game just as much as you do, who will never be able to play motion. If someone tells you they play sticks, please do not begin a motion is better rant. We've heard it before countless times, and you have no idea why that player is choosing to play sticks. Do not make fun of them for playing sticks. It only serves to make people distance themselves. It's embarrassing and makes that player very defensive and feel like they will never be good at this game that we all share a drive for. Encourage stick players. You may learn something from them. Having to play sticks for a year forced me to outthink my opponents. Sure, that was at a low level, but I had to pre-fire. I had to have my shots lined up, not trail my shots, and position myself as well as I could for my weapon. Share good sticks clips when you see them. Hype them up. They work so hard for what they do. Talk about their strategy, their gameplay, and not only the fact that they play sticks. Let's begin talking about sticks instead of dismissing them. To those of you out there watching this who play sticks and have to because of your bodies, I feel you. I hear you. I want to make this better for you, and I hope me speaking up about this changes something and makes this game and community better for you. I really, from the bottom of my heart, hope that Nintendo hears something and makes changes for Splatoon 3. Also, I will add, in my very well-versed in sticks opinion, learn Blob. Dear goodness, the way it functions linearly may make it one of the few weapons that benefits from sticks. Flicks will be harder for you, but if you work at it, you will get it down. You'll have to think. Angles are everything, but angles are far smoother and more predictable with sticks. Use those wall shots. Even if it doesn't benefit from sticks, and I guess I will find that out, it was the weapon that I found truly clicked best with sticks. Weapons that require quick adjustments in aim, like most slayers and blasters, are going to be the hardest for you to learn and perform well with. I'm sure that those of you who play sticks have found ways around motion, and please, please share those opinions loud and proud with others. It can be the difference between someone else quitting and them thriving. To my wonderful, supportive, and amazing teammates, I love you so much. From the bottom of my heart, I couldn't do any of this without you. Every morning, the first thing I do is check Discord and say hi. Before I even roll over. Your relentless support of me means the world, and you are such amazing people. I know that your positive attitude, hardworking nature, and desire to grow will carry you far in and out of Splatoon. Thank you to everyone who watched and listened to my perspective. Please talk about this and share this video, and let Nintendo know that the way sticks are vastly inferior to motion is unacceptable. Everyone deserves a chance to play with us in this wonderful community. Disability access needs to be on their priority list. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my thoughts, my story, and experiences. If you want to chat any more about this, you can reach my Discord in the description, as well as my Twitter. Feel free to DM me at both places. Remember to be kind to each other, and stay fresh.